I'm short. On a good day, 57.5 inches short to be exact. This puts me at 6.7 inches smaller than the average 17-year-old girl, or shorter than 99.2% of all girls my age. But just by looking at me, you've probably already noticed that I'm short, since it's not really something I can hide. And for those of you who have been at Oakridge for a while, you're probably used to it, because growing up, I've always been the shortest in my class. And looking back on it, I realize it's kind of been a pain. In kindergarten, I was called names like shrimp and sometimes even midget. In lower school, I felt excluded from my friends because I was too short to ride the tornado at the Great Wolf Lodge. And by the time middle school came around, I had grown so tired of being known as the short girl that I made what I thought was going to be a life-changing decision. I started taking growth treatments. So every day for 5 years, I received injections hoping that one day, maybe, just maybe, I would grow to be a normal height. The doctor's goal for me by the end of my growth treatments was to be taller than my mom, which, for those of you who don't know my mom, this seems like a reasonable goal. So even though it's pretty obvious that the growth hormones didn't work so well, I am proud to say that I am taller than my mom, which I guess is an accomplishment given that she's only 4'9". But since plan A, the growth hormones, didn't work out like expected, I had to resort to an alternate plan. And this wasn't to take excessive amounts of vitamins or drink excessive amounts of milk, but instead it was something much, much simpler. But since I was so concerned with growing to a normal height, I had never really considered the possibility. And this plan was to embrace my height for what it was. Now, growing up, we hear sayings all the time like love yourself and embrace who you are. And even though I'm a firm believer in these philosophies now, I can't say that I have always been. For example, I used to only laugh at people's jokes about my height because I would feel like I was too sensitive if they didn't. And harmless questions like, how's the weather down there, Rachel? Or, are you sure you can reach that? Would make me feel extremely uncomfortable. I never felt truly inclined to embrace who I was because I felt like I was always looked down upon, both literally and figuratively. Michael J. Fox once said, acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means understanding that something is what it is and that there's got to be a way through it. So over time, I realized that I couldn't do anything about my height. But what I did realize is that there was a way to get through it. So slowly but surely, I grew accustomed to the jokes about my height and even began to chime in with the laughter every once in a while. I've developed automatic responses to questions that I get all the time, like, yes, I am actually 17. And as for being looked down upon, I made it my goal to grow in ways other than height. Challenging myself in school has helped my mind and knowledge grow. Being a part of organizations like Student Council and Key Club has helped my leadership and character grow. And pursuing choir, the musical, and drumline has helped my musicality and creativity grow. But with all this growth, what I've realized is that there are always going to be growing pains. For some of you, this could be receiving a bad test grade in that rigorous AP course you're taking. Or for some of you, it could be not receiving the Most Improved Player award, even though you believe you've worked harder than anyone else for it. For me, it was last year when I prepared thoroughly for an audition for a choir, and then I didn't get selected for the choir. Even though I was upset, I learned from this experience that all of these obstacles and all of these pains, they're only temporary, and afterwards you can look forward to a new burst of growth. We all have something that makes us unique. My advice is that you don't try to hide it like I tried to hide my growth hormones. Instead, you should embrace it because it's what makes you, you. Because if those growth hormones had worked, I would not be the person I am today. And I've come to realize so many things that I love about being short. I have a great conversation starter, I never have to worry about my long legs on an airplane, and I'll never outgrow my favorite sweater. Being short has taught me so many ways to grow to make up for my lack of physical growth. It's taught me to reach for the stars, even if I have to stumble on my tiptoes. It's taught me to be a bigger person, even if I'm actually smaller. And it's taught me that growth can be determined by your genetics, but it can also be determined by how hard you work. And even though I'm stuck at 57.5 inches, I won't stop growing anytime soon. Thank you.